This is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Monday, August 16th, starting late. Once again, it's one of those situations where right now my sleep schedule is so shifted. Like, I'm sleeping almost the entire day away and staying up all night playing now Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Now, I did finish the DLC character, the like 5 DLC levels I had for Lego Batman 3, and it immediately started micro-stuttering and just brought back all that negative emotion, frankly, from the micro-stuttering of Lego games. I did do a little bit more research on it. Apparently, maybe Windows 10 added a full screen optimization by default, and so by clicking on properties on the executable, maybe, just maybe, you can disable full screen optimization and turn off a lot of video effects and mostly get rid of the micro stuttering issue. I also attempted to no avail, just limiting the frames per second, because there has been that more recent story of the Amazon game that's in beta just frying video cards because of an unlimited menu frame rate where it just goes into the thousands of frames per second. Disabling full screen optimization did seem to stop the crashing, the full using up of all the RAM and crashing OBS. How one program potentially is using up all the RAM so that another program yeah, I don't know how one program would be allowed to use the other RAM of another program. That's probably an argument about just how terribly Windows can run at times. So yeah, I'm still teetering with the idea that I'll try Lego Pirates of the Caribbean and see if I can have a decent experience with that, even if I have to turn down like FXAA. But yeah, it's not fun to potentially do 5 levels of a game and by the 4th or 5th level have micro stuttering show up again. So after that, I started to play Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and I'll just say it right now, me playing Binding of Isaac Rebirth is really more of a cry to ask people to gift me Afterbirth, Afterbirth Plus, and Repentance as DLC, which has just always been like a little too expensive as they come out for the new content that they add, for the idea of going back and playing Binding of Isaac after all these years. That being said, I am doing amazingly well. Is shockingly well with Rebirth. Now, I have pretty much said I'm gonna try and do 30 episodes of Rebirth and then call it quits. If I could get Afterbirth, I could do another 30 episodes, and that would unlock more things and change things up. But really, you start to majorly improve the game once you get to the Repentance DLC. And Repentance is probably the last DLC to play. So there might be an argument to playing a little bit on Rebirth, then buying Afterbirth, and then playing a little bit more to unlock a few more characters and a few more unlocks, and then playing Afterbirth Plus, which is the one nobody really appreciated, that people didn't like. I guess that's a better way to say that. Bloodcraft, Polocraft, and Shadowcraft today. And then after getting as much as you're likely to get unlocked with Afterbirth and Afterbirth Plus one by one, then you jump to Repentance. Then you have this massive upgrade to the system. But also there might be just an argument to playing with a brand new save file on Repentance. I am in a unique position compared to other YouTubers who have been just playing Isaac since day one and never really stopped. In that I don't have a 100% unlocked save file of the main game. I probably never will. I don't have a 100% save file of Rebirth, obviously, and probably never will. I'm not going from that perspective that's the goal. I'm evaluating it from the perspective of, can you return to this game, or does Rebirth alone just feel too familiar or too difficult? And yeah, I find so far I've found that to not be the case. I think Rebirth is totally playable. Now I think it is probably a little bit of getting back on a bike situation, and had I never played any Isaac at all, if I didn't have that 100 episodes plus of Isaac at the very beginning of my YouTube career, would I be able to play Rebirth on day one and make as much progress? Probably not. Also, I have a lot of knowledge, not all the knowledge for sure. I don't know if anybody has all the knowledge as far as how to unlock things and how to do things, but I have a lot of knowledge, certainly, as to what happens when and what you need to do. Actually, a lot of it's not even so much a secret. They're labeled as secrets, but it really is just beat this enemy without... beat this enemy and you'll unlock an item, and that'll be called a secret. Or, in fact, for Rebirth alone, the only major thing that you might not realize is that if you can beat the first and second version of levels, so if you can beat the basement 1 and basement 2 without taking damage, that unlocks something. If you beat the womb 1, the womb 2 without taking damage, that unlocks something. If you beat mom without taking damage, that unlocks an achievement at least. I don't know if that actually unlocks an item. But yeah, generally, not taking damage in a room is just the expected thing, so it's only a slight expansion to expect people to not take damage an entire floor. There is something, I think, to be said about the Binding of Isaac in the fact that its controls are very tight. Like, most games I play on easy or normal, if there's like 5, not 5, but if there's a hard and very hard mode, I'll usually play on normal. At that point, where just playing on normal on Isaac, since there is only a normal and hard mode, and it's not until you start getting into the Afterbirth and Repentance level do you start getting green mode. So yeah, there's there's real challenge in playing Binding of Isaac Rebirth, to the point where I recognized my controller was not calibrated and hasn't been probably calibrated properly for a very long time. A little bit of controller drift. I installed the Windows Store app, Xbox Accessories app, for no avail. It did install some kind of new update to the controller, which hopefully that doesn't break something, but then it immediately wanted me to sign into Microsoft Xbox to do anything else and actually calibrate it, and at that point I said forget it and just went back to the Windows joystick calibration option, and that still worked perfectly fine. So I don't think there's actually a reason to use Xbox Accessories app if you're not actually getting into the Xbox ecostructure. But yeah, I was thinking I was gonna have to increase the dead zone to my right stick, but actually just looking at the settings by before I calibrated and looking at the settings after I calibrated, I think I'm actually going to be perfectly fine. Alright, well, if I do this, I'll probably die. If I do this, I probably die.
I go with the wind.
Yeah. What I was noticing while playing Isaac Rebirth was that while I was holding up a charged brimstone-like attack, that you have to hold the right stick upward to, or in the direction of the enemy to charge up and then release. It will fire in that direction when it flings, when your right stick goes back to the center. Except for when I was firing upward, it would overshoot that and shoot back downward. So half of my shots were just shooting in the wrong direction, and you cannot really abide that in Isaac. You don't have the luxury of missing shots like that.
Promises of pox at them. Allow me to take my cut.
Yeah, and I just woke up, so I'm yawning even though it's super late in the evening, and that probably is not going to be a great thing for some of my fans. But, yeah. I definitely would not be suited to work for some company that demanded creating content on any real consistent schedule. It wouldn't be good. Although, in all fairness, people who do release content on consistent schedules at this point, like Giant Bomb, are not really making good content either, so whatever. So yeah, I'll probably be fairly obsessed about Isaac Rebirth for a little while, and yeah, I am just begging people to friend me on Steam and gift me that game, the DLC, which I think you can gift DLC on Steam. I don't see any reason why you couldn't. There is weirdness even in the DLC as far as Isaac Rebirth, in that you kind of have to get Afterbirth if you want Afterbirth Plus, and I'm not sure if you actually have to have either of those to get Repentance, but I wouldn't be surprised if it all is very iterative and you do have to have one first before you can go to the next one, because each bit of those DLCs unlocked more items and new characters, so it would be weird to try and make good because people didn't like Afterbirth Plus by giving out a Repentance DLC that just unlocks everything in Afterbirth Plus.
Through moments both fleeting and eternal.
Which also means that there's a possibility, we know for a fact that, like, if you bought Afterbirth Plus and you didn't have Afterbirth, you would not be able to play Afterbirth Plus at all, which is weird. Yeah. And at a certain level, I guess I'm kind of glad that there isn't a Binding of Isaac 2, and unlikely to be one anytime soon, because if a sequel came out, I think it would probably suck out the entirety of its player base's time. Because, yeah, people are still playing the first game. If anything, I think a Binding of Isaac 2 would have to get ambitious and make a game that is inspired by the adventures of Link, Zelda 2. Just a completely different type of game. and a completely different style. That would be about the only thing I could think they could do, because anything else would feel like you're just adding more characters and adding more content. And with Repentance, it seems like mod support exists now, and co-op gameplay exists now. So I'm not sure what else you could really expect them to add. They could just add 150 more items, a couple more characters, more room layouts, but it will just be more of the same. Alright, well, since we are starting late, we probably just want to burn through the news. If anything, yeah, I would just like to get back to playing some more Isaac tonight. Right after this. Now, the Isaac episodes are going to be weird. They are going back to, this episode could be 45, 50 minutes, or this episode could be 2 hours. Honestly, most of the episodes are going to be closer to 2 hours. There is, particularly with Isaac, no good point to break up an episode. There is only really a decent way to try and do challenges on top of doing runs to make the episodes longer. And that does not work at all for the YouTube algorithm, but whatever. Like, I'm not going to let the YouTube algorithm completely control my game playing decisions. Like, that is the day that video games become nothing but a job for me, and that's not something I would want to have happen.
How did I miss that? Quit flying around everywhere.
So yeah, that's
Yeah, I love this job. Of course I do.
that's weird, I suppose. Yeah. Every other game breaks up its runs or has more bespoke levels. But yeah, if I stopped, say, at halfway through a run in Isaac, I would be so poor, I would play so poorly that I would almost always lose. Whereas I've almost always won going up to Mom's Heart and Satan in Binding of Isaac Rebirth at this point. So, like, with the exception of Isaac himself, there's only maybe 1 or 2 characters that haven't beaten Satan on normal. But I am a little confused as far as what is actually unlockable, and the achievements don't even really help it, because there's like 600 achievements but a lot of them are DLC based. So I'm not 100% sure if Rebirth even gets you to a point where you have the starting items that you unlock for characters, which means I might very well not be able to go as far as one would like.
I'm coming. Detestable. Detestable. I'm out of cash. Detestable. Ow. Detestable. Ow.
Guess we'll take that. Yeah. If Rebirth itself doesn't allow you to eventually unlock the D6 for Isaac, then Isaac is a fairly difficult character to play as. Kind of a nearly impossible character to play as. And frankly, while I don't know the full breakdown on the best way to unlock characters, it does feel like if you can just unlock Magdalene, you should just play as Magdalene over and over again. That way you can use that. You can use that increased starting health to
Why would the dead need a living wage?
simply increase your odds of winning. Okay, well, OpenCritic has an article here, and because of my uBlock Origin not being reset, I never cleared out the ads on uBlock Origin. But Guilty Gear Strive's next DLC character has been announced as Jacko, I guess. Yeah. Clearly I'll have to do some cleanup work on OpenCritic. Blissey is coming to Pokemon Unite, so I guess that's a Pokemon. We'll talk about that. The Xbox Series X latest Insider update improves the dashboard for 4K screens. The dashboard and UI elements were previously rendered at 1080p. Which, okay, that's nice. I really have to wonder though, even for the Series X though, are they talking 4K at 60 frames per second more than a 4K at 120 frames per second or higher, 144? Because I definitely could see a scenario where okay, does any of this
Prepare yourself.
save me?
My dreams are what keeps me alive. I want to get it all back. What do we have here?
How did I miss that?
Yeah. Still lose. With 7 health left. But yeah.
Nice swordsmanship.
Still playing Destiny Child. I wish they would give you like 2 weeks of downtime, but I also understand the long-term health of a gacha game only makes sense if you are just all in and it is constantly giving you more and more content. I'm at the moment currently above the curve, and so I don't even have any characters to try and unlock other than just trying to get 5-star characters to evolve max level 5-star characters into 6-star characters, which is the max level. And thank goodness they never introduced the 7th level characters, because that would be a little crazy. Because they get exponentially more difficult each level. So a 1-star character getting to max level is way easier than a 2-star character getting to max level. And so on and so on. Moving on. Gamatsu says the ESRB is rated .hack/GU last recode for Switch. I think we had already seen this announced, but yeah, we had seen something like this. Last recode includes GU Volume 1, Rebirth, Volume 2, Reminiscence, Volume 3, Redemption, and then newly developed Volume 4, Reconnection. I think it is important to say, at least in the anime, the .hack/sign and the .hack series in general in their animes were way more about talking than they were about actually action. If anything, Sword Art Online at least somewhat improved on that aspect, because it came off like it was going to be this high action kind of Digimon for adults type experience, but it really wasn't that. We have a ton of games left over from Friday. Here we have Minesweeper 3D for 84 cents, which doesn't really look to me like it is actually even Minesweeper. It looks to me like it's just some kind of weird asset flip thing. Next we have Nightmares to Be, which also looks like it's probably an asset flip horror game with some dungeon crawling. It's early access, free to play, single player with a third party EULA, allegedly full audio. Visual horror novel. Is how they're describing it. Hit that. That's gonna be nothing. I also turned down the audio a little bit. I think 10 decibels when I get loud is a little too loud. So I brought it just to amplify to 5 decibels. I'm doing that for Rebirth and for live streamings now. It's like not industry standard by any means. You're supposed to, according to the BBC radio and standards, that for whatever little standards there are, you're supposed to be at 20 decibel, negative 20 decibels on your audio loudness, but whatever. And I probably could change things up and turn up the gain on my microphone via the dial on the back of it, instead of using instead of just digitally adjusting it in OBS. But yeah, I will. That's a little bit more analog and difficult to get perfectly set. So I think I'll just stick with the digital versions. I'm letting Rebirth be fairly loud as far as its own music, but oddly that is the one thing that I don't think is great about The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and I'm glad that Repentance kind of redid the soundtrack. There are definitely some times when the ambient music and the soundtrack that's playing during Binding of Isaac is just not particularly great. It's a little annoying sounding. It's harsh from audio is I would say its biggest problem. Is it just how incredibly harsh it sounds. Alright. I guess we can try here to make ourselves a big enough threat.
Open wide.
Next we have a game on Steam called Wave Shooter, which obviously is just an asset flip first-person shooter game. $12.79 English only. Here we have one called Train Number 7, which may not be in English. This might be a decent Chinese kind of visual novel. They're calling it a casual RPG, but I don't know if it's giving you little puzzle games while you're on the train, with riding on the train. English is not supported, free to play, Chinese only. Yeah, it seems like this girl is probably asking you puzzles and you're supposed to solve the puzzles and do little mini games. But yeah, that doesn't look terrible. It is a little weird that it's not widescreen though, because you'd pretty much assume that that is a brand new game. Alright.
You see, I'm only getting stronger.
see. Next, we have a game called Clean Slate, which looks like it's little puzzle games and poorly drawn characters, visual novel style play. $14.99, way too expensive, English only. Here we have one called Dread Templar, which looks to me like it's one of those fast-paced, bloody Quake clones, which I've never really been able to play a lot of these Quake games and get into them. So, like, this might be more of a Hexen clone than anything else. Like, it's really not my style of gameplay, but I'm probably should give them a try and get into them more. This English is full audio, $13.49 early access. I'll give it a follow. I also want to see what this Realms Deep sale is all about, so we'll click on that. Okay. Banish an enemy follower. Storm.
Let us pierce the twilight Sleipnir. More! Let us end
I love to
this.
stop. Of course I do.
Tonight.
We might be able to pull this off, but I doubt it. Like, if I could survive 2 turns and then play this, get it down to 6, and have these 2 ready to attack, that'd be quite a lot to do, certainly. Apparently there was a bug for a brief moment, some kind of hack that was giving Steam people free money, which, well, that sounds nice. I imagine Valve would catch people and undo that fairly quick. Let's look at this Steam sale, Realms Deep. Well, we know Jupiter Hell. We've seen this, and Project Warlock. Yeah. These are all very much kind of the exact same style of games, or at least the same mentality.
Mother, father, come on!
Like a lot of high action first person shooter kind of edgy games. System Shock demo being included here. Yeah, this is a pretty decent list of the types of games that some of which I think deserve coverage, but I don't know a lot of them. This one, Parish, looks interesting. But yeah, I would definitely look towards more of the really polished, really well reviewed versions of these games and not go super crazy. I don't want to play hundreds of Doom clones. If anything, this really just goes to show that there is a history, certainly, of Doom-like games that at one point just completely owned the industry and now are frankly left by the waysides as a afterthought, as feeling incredibly old, and just not really in line with what people want or expect to see. Some of these games like Turok and System Shock and Shadow Man like, are very old games that have some relevancy. Some of these are new ones, like Loop Hero, that I don't think really falls in the same category as a lot of these other games. But a lot of these also, I think you could pretty quickly just ignore. Like, this Dread and Delusion looks kind of interesting, but then it looks so low polygon too, and I don't know if I really would want to play a brand new game that looks like that. And then even this Wizardrome, which looks slightly polished, still is going for that old school appearance, and I think that hurts it, in my opinion, as far as whether or not I would really want to play it or not. And what's funny, I think you can take from just looking at all these games in particular, is how little these game developers have embraced the idea of asset flipping characters in favor of going for that older art style. Because if they had just gone to the Unity or Unreal store, probably the Unreal store, they almost certainly could have gotten pre-made models of characters and asset flipped them and had a modern looking first-person shooter game that, in all fairness, may very well be immediately ignored because it's a first-person shooter game that looks just like a generic first-person shooter game that we've seen thousands of times before. So maybe they are doing the right thing by standing out visually. For instance, this game, The Black Heart, that's on sale, that came out in 2009, is still in early access, and it's been as cheap as $3.74, but as a fighting game, it has 6 characters. It's like hand-drawn art, which is not particularly great. You're fighting as kind of monstrous characters from kind of movie genres. This is probably a great example of where a single developer or small indie developer, somebody maybe in Spain, if I was to guess, just doesn't have enough support and enough skill to make a game succeed. It's single player with split screen player versus player. And yeah, it's at this point more hiding behind early access than actually being released. This same concept is a concept that should just be stolen, but I think you probably would make... Yeah, they're selling it as the 10-year edition at this point. Yeah, I don't think you have a consistent art style if you just take a bunch of random movie like monsters and horror creatures. If you are going to do something like that, you're going to have to think about it really hard. The Cabin in the Woods did that with a movie, so definitely you can do it with a video game, but you would want to be fairly careful too. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cabin in the Woods paid a lot in licensing fees to have characters show up. Although I don't know if any of the characters in the Cabin in the Woods were actually licensable characters, instead of just being parody characters. And in all fairness, the fighting game Darkstalkers, was around that concept too, and Darkstalkers had a very consistent appearance to its characters, which should be appreciated, considering how they managed to take like male Dracula, female vampire, mummy, and Frankenstein, and several other kind of universal monster type characters that would have been way more recognizable back when Darkstalkers originally came out as a fighting game. And clearly Darkstalkers never got a lot of sequels or anything, so it's not super surprising that nobody has tried to make another Darkstalkers game. I played poorly there. Should have read what the card does. Here we have a game on Steam called Pixaso, which seems to be probably just a coloring game. $2.39, English only. Here we have a game called Merchant's Game, which seems to be a single screen merchant sim. Early access, $6.99, English only, that's way too expensive. Here we have Castle of the Underdogs, Episode 1. Now, let's not get immediately distracted by the anime character, because you can see this as voxel, kind of pixely characters. It definitely looks kind of like you're trying to do a Minecraft clone, but it's a JRPG at this point. Yeah, I think there just have to be a little bit more polish on the yeah, I think that's where it would really come down, is that there would just have to be a lot more polish. Okay.
What's this? Scatter like the blossoms.
What's interesting about Castle of the Underdogs is that it is describing itself on the trailer here, which I'm barely paying attention to, but it as a Final Fantasy X battle system. I haven't gotten to a level where I felt like there was a just understandable, from my perspective as someone who hasn't played Final Fantasy at all, to know what the big difference would be between a Final Fantasy X battle system and a Final Fantasy 13 or Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 1. Generally, I kind of felt like all the Final Fantasy games had about the same battle system, and with only slight evolutions per number. If that's not the case, then that is definitely news to me.
Life's a gamble. May as well have fun. Will it be crimson red?
The moon is beautiful tonight.
Probably not gonna win with that. Next we have a game on Steam here called Escape from Dufo, which just looks like it's a dark screenshot dungeon game. Escape from a dungeon game. 79 cents, English only, so it seems to me like it's probably closer to an escape the room puzzle game than a dungeon crawler. Yeah. And something like this could be potentially a nice little tutorial level for a much bigger game, but it totally does not work as a standalone game. Let's see. Here we have a game called Pseudo Cats, which looks like they've taken the concept of Sudoku and just absolutely ruined it by using cats on the rooftops. Like, this is probably one of the worst examples of asset flipping things for no good reason I've ever seen. $1.19 English only. That's easily dismissed. Here we have one called Life is Hard, which seems to be probably a too zoomed out game. It's being tagged as a strategy simulation, so maybe you're just running a God Sim Town Simulator is what it says. $8.99 English and Russian. It's already mixed, and it just came out. Here we have a game called Eucelia. Interesting, some of these games have already come out and people are reviewing them, which I kind of would appreciate that. Like, for all the like user-based actions and what they often call review bombing, I think there is room to just try and accurately review all new games a lot faster. If it becomes the fact that there's at least 10 people willing to go and play your game on day one as soon as it comes out and review it and say, oh no, this is garbage, that probably would be appreciated quite a bit.
Rage empowers me. A flash of metal, a silent night.
I don't even know what I'm bothering to play. I should just save myself some time.
What's this?
So yeah, we have a game here called Eucelia, which is apparently an MMORPG. I don't hate this animation style, but then it really doesn't look like there's too much else to this game. And I will say this animation style doesn't really seem like it fits the background and the world. You can see this is already mixed early access. It probably doesn't really work that well as far as servers. English and Korean, so maybe that's why it has 16 reviews already, is because it's a Korean game and Koreans are willing to jump into something new faster. Well,
Thus the world
if I hit this
cycles on.
and then do this
Seek what is not there.
and then do this,
Your mincemeat.
and then do this.
Cry for blood.
Your head and body must part ways.
Let me show you how it's done. Let's play. Don't be shy.
So I can play every card
Hey, my friend.
on my field, but then
There's no turning back.
most of them are going to end up dead. Which means unless I could get some more health, I'm gonna lose. Here we have a game on Steam called Brave Point Kill, which once again kind of looks like a more modern attempt at an RPG, like maybe a mobile RPG from maybe China. 99 cents, Chinese only. That is slightly more ambitious than just trying to make something in low effort, but yeah, for Steam that doesn't look visually polished enough. Here we have Pet Night into Cave. I don't know why there's so many RPGs all in a row. This is being tagged as a point and click adventure inaccurately. 99 cents, Chinese only again. Seems like we've had a bit of a run. Here we have a game called Doo Doo Monkey, which, yeah. I don't see anything here visually appealing. $2.99 English and Russian. Here we have a game called Defense Your Organism, which looks like it's a low effort tower defense game for 59 cents, English only. Let's see. Can we possibly? When?
Such a lovely couple.
That soul belongs to me.
Let's see. I can't evolve this to do 3 damage.
Welcome back to the land of the living, but make it fashion.
See. Banish it instead of leaving play.
It's a nice roaring flame. It's a nice roaring flame.
Well, we might as well hit that.
That's hot.
And yeah, I don't think there's anything else you can do, so you end the turn here and you lose. I would have had to do an extra 9 damage there. Let's see. Bloodcraft, Portalcraft. I guess that means we could play Portalcraft and get a victory that way. Here we have a game on Steam called Jigsaw with Animals, which just looks like square jigsaws, which aren't actually jigsaws. $5.99 English and Russian, too expensive. Here we have a game called Pogo Rocket, which is $9.99. Here we have a game called Orca Cubu,
Come on.
which seems to be a puzzle game, but it's just a little too visually neon for me to give it the time of day. Again, it needs more polish instead of just solid white backgrounds and black backgrounds. It's free, English only, has 25 puzzles. Like, if this was a student project even at that point, though, I don't think I would give it the time of day. Yeah. I believe it was director of Assassin's Creed 3 has put out some criticism against the RPG system that eventually got adopted in Assassin's Creed Origin and later games. Which, in all fairness, I think that's rightfully fair to say, because that's not what the Assassin's Creed series was originally. Yeah. So I should play this one and this one, get 1 victory here, and then get 3 more Portalcraft victories, and then that'll be potentially easy wins. Although, in all fairness, it is kind of weird to give any credibility to the creator of the Assassin's Creed 3 game, when Assassin's Creed 3 itself had an RPG system that people fairly didn't like. So he might be criticizing the RPG system in his own game, and I misread the article. Now that I think about it, that would kind of make a lot more sense. There was an increasing level of that. Like, Revelations would have been the game right before Assassin's Creed 3, and you had to find parts for armor, I know, but I don't think there was any other kinds of level ups at that point. Whereas 3, I think you did start hunting for things, but even at that, I think you were hunting for components to craft items, and maybe craft components for armor. Again, I don't think they fully embraced the idea of you're going to have a character and he's going to start at level 1 and then he's going to work his way up to level 25. That was done much later, certainly. But yeah, these slow iterative changes to the Assassin's Creed series definitely makes it hard to consistently play the Assassin's Creed series. I saw a YouTube video that compared Shadow of Mordor with
I want to get it all back.
it compared Shadow of Mordor with the Batman Arkham Asylum fight mechanic, and yeah, I didn't think so. I didn't think that those two fight mechanics were similar at all, but maybe they were. There might just be a fairly large difference between swinging a sword around and then just beating up on people. Also, I would just say that there's kind of a big change that happens in general with the Shadow of Mordor and its like prequel, like, because you have that whole nemesis system, so you have a real reason why you would want to take on those characters. The open world elements are the only elements in the first Shadow of War game, whereas Arkham Asylum and Arkham City both have just more going on.
Do not seek what is not there.
The uncharted desert awaits.
So yeah, I guess I need to probably play Shadow of Mordor now that all the DLC and nonsense is out of it, and just see what the sequel is like and see if that really does feel like I am just playing Arkham City, or if I'm playing a better improved version of Arkham City. And certainly the way they described the Arkham Asylum free flow fighting system was in a positive light, so there definitely are YouTubers out there at least that do like it, whereas I didn't think it was good for a Batman game, but I didn't think it was particularly good anyways. It might be a decent fight mechanic system for a Warriors style game where you have let's see.
I want to get it all back.
Yeah, a Warriors style game where you have
Why would the dead need a living wage?
have thousands of enemies. Man, I'm just stuttering. I'm not awake yet, obviously. If you have like thousands of enemies attacking at once, and you have a free flow fighting system where you can just take on 10 at once as quickly as possible, that would be an improvement, certainly. But you still are kind of just doing the same button mashing actions. Let's see. Storm, Burial Rite. Play this. Can't play this. Necromancy 6, Reanimate 4. Alright, let's try this. Then try this.
Are you in need of medicine?
The uncharted desert awaits.
Evolve this.
Prepare yourself. That's hot.
Moving on, Game of Sutra has an article. Roblox now owns the online communications platform Gilded, which it's apparently similar to Discord. Let's see. Game of Sutra has an article. The Dead by Daylight Strangest Thing DLC will be delisted from sale in November, which I think inherently that is kind of the problem with getting licenses in your game in general. I suspect that might mean that there's more progress towards a Stranger Things video game, specifically, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they just didn't care to renegotiate the license at all.
You look kind of haunted. No, literally.
Okay. So we gotta evolve this.
See, I'm only getting stronger.
I'm ready for more. What do
Do
we
we
have
hit
here?
that? Do we hit that?
That's hot.
Do we hit that? Here we have a game on Steam called Mercenary Operator Wolves, which looks like it's a top-down stealth game of no quality. Early access, $8.49. Here we have a game called Sengoku, A Time of Warriors and Demons, which
Nice swordsmanship.
I don't think there's enough visual polish here either. Seems like it's a fighting game. See, it's free and English full audio. Feels like if you're going to have a Japanese thematic fighting game, you would expect it to support Japanese language. Yeah, seems like it's got some platforming elements too. So like an attempt at a Mark of the Ninja, but not as polished or as nice looking. I may be being a little cruel by not giving this a chance, but it has a third-party EULA, and I think I'm just going to say no to it. According to Game of Sutra, California regulators to Riot Games, let your employees know they can speak to us. They filed a request asking the court to compel Riot Games to inform employees that they are legally able to discuss their experiences with state regulators. I mean, this is probably, I'm just going to use this title as a way to make my own personal opinion and tangent here, which is a terrible way to take in news, certainly. But what I would assume has happened is Riot Games has put out messages in the general feel that people are under non-disclosure agreements, which at no point is a non-disclosure agreement going to be upheld when talking to government agencies. The government that enforces a non-disclosure agreement is not going to enforce it against itself, with perhaps the exception if you were like whistleblowing or leaking on the government itself. Yeah, the government will screw you there, certainly, a la Edward Snowden. But yeah, otherwise they probably have tried to impress on people that they shouldn't be talking to the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which arguably that should be two departments. But yeah. See, here we can say, according to state regulators, they requested that notification after finding language in some of Riot's legal agreements with former employees that suggested employees could not voluntarily and candidly speak with the government about sexual harassment and other violations. Now, the department is arguing that Riot has delayed the process of sending out court-required notices. These are all fairly standard legal wrangling things where, yeah, Riot, even if they are 100% completely innocent, which they almost certainly aren't, are going to try and play a little hardball. The lawyers are going to try and play hardball. They're going to try and slow down any actions the opposing side. It is a very aggressive stance that you pretty much have to take when you're being sued or when people are taking legal action against you. Yeah. And a lot of it may just be for negotiation and posturing reasons more than anything else. But at a certain point, it also highlights how the U.S. Justice system, if you can really call it that, which you really shouldn't, it has been converted into more of a game for rich men with rich lawyers to play, instead of it being a true honest pursuit of justice. But unfortunately, I think that's probably true for most justice systems. There is a potential argument, certainly I could make, that there could be a budget maximum in which money is spent towards a court case. There could be a limitation on the number of lawyers and the number of lawyer hours spent on a case. The judges do try to somewhat speed up the process and not just have court cases go on forever, but there is a lot of ways to delay things and make things cost a lot more, and it's all done theoretically in the pursuit of a fair outcome, but in reality it's often done just to waste everybody's time and money. Moving on, Video Game Chronicles says Cyberpunk 2077 patch 1.3 details have been announced ahead of the first DLC being revealed on Tuesday. First I've even heard of a DLC, but yeah, I don't know if anybody really cares to see DLC for Cyberpunk 2077. I'm not sure if anybody cares to play Cyberpunk. Yep, and certainly I am still, this is just driving around, it's just doing visual comparisons. I'm not sure I could ever play Cyberpunk because there's just like a little too much nudity, a little too many sexual aids. Even here, like this shirt I feel like was added specifically to make this YouTube family friendly. But yeah, there's 3 videos here showing different things. I think they just went off the rails, and I don't think there's really a way to fix being off the rails with Cyberpunk other than just starting over with that concept, letting somebody else make a Cyberpunk game. In a lot of ways, I think even in production, they should have probably just abandoned Cyberpunk and said, actually, we're just going to make a Witcher game. Like, we succeeded wildly with Witcher 3. We're not doing good with Cyberpunk. We should either abandon it or leave it in development hell. there are clear decisions that are problematic with it. And I don't mean that as an SJW problematic so much as I mean that they wasted budget hiring a celebrity be a main character. They focused on some kind of dumb frat boy teen comedy when that wasn't really how the game was being advertised. The game, from what I've seen as far as reviews, feels a lot more like a modern take on Saints Row, which had they advertised it as this is going to be a cyberpunk Saints Row, then maybe you'd be more prepared for that. But that's not how it was advertised. It was advertised as like a Witcher 3 really serious, really well polished game, and it had none of that. I think you probably abandoned the car mechanics because the joke of the horse never working in the Witcher games was based on reality, so it would have made a whole lot of sense to say we're not going to have any vehicle at all, and instead we'll make do with just walking around, which that probably would have been fine. So their desire to try and add GTA elements into what is closer to a Deus Ex game was also a mistake. Like Deus Ex games, you just walk around an incredibly small area. Yeah, particularly Human Revolution. Like that's a really small map that you wander around. I guess you fuse here, but if you fuse here, it doesn't work. 3 damage to enemy followers. 3 damage to any enemy. Well, can we do this?
We'll cut you down.
3 damage to all enemies.
Exemplary battle.
Yeah, I just don't really feel like there's anything at all that would make an argument towards playing Cyberpunk. Like, if someone were to gift me Cyberpunk 2077, I would make a mad dash rush through it just to show gratification for somebody gifting me that game. I don't even think the game is on my wish list. At a certain point, I guess if somebody gives me a game that's not on my wish list, that's pretty much how I would deal with it anyways. Okay, well, that got one thing done. Now we just need a Shadowcraft and then 2 more Portalcraft victories. Here we have a game on Steam called Descent Vector Space Runner, which seems like it's a fly around space game, but it might be something closer to a Star Fox game. It's an infinite runner, basically like a dropper map, but in space, which is an interesting twist, certainly, instead of making a dropper map in something like Minecraft. But yeah, I don't think it's worth $9.87. English only. Not a terrible thought though. I have to applaud the improvement on a generic concept. Here we have one called Imperium Real RTC HD Edition Great Battles of Rome. Yeah. Is RTC the right phrase? No, it isn't. Real-time conquest. an old school real-time strategy oriented around military conquest. That's why that phrase didn't make any sense to me. Honestly, it just seems like this is an Age of Empires clone. $9.99, English, Spain, Spanish, Italian. In all fairness, I'll put it on the follow list, but more than likely, I think I barely would ever choose to even play Age of Empires, let alone another real-time strategy game. Yeah, we have a game on Steam called Coral Quest, which is tagged Education. Seems like it's probably an infinite runner with fish. Yeah. Yeah, it's just an infinite runner with fish. The polish doesn't look terrible. Even if this was a mobile game, it does not look terrible. It says it's a 9-lane running system, so like 3x3 I would assume, which is slightly different on an infinite runner. $7.49, whole bunch of languages. Apparently they donate 20% of their profits to ocean cleanup, which at what point do they start having profit? It's very, very easy to never have profit in a company, any company. I would also say the idea of plastic ending up in the ocean, and it being something that an individual can actually do anything about is really a fallacy. Like, write your local representative or senator, I suppose, is about the only thing you can do, because as long as there are poor enough countries willing to dump trash into the ocean and corrupt companies willing to dump trash in the ocean, it will still happen. There is perhaps a argument on reducing the number of things made out of plastic and reducing the subsidies to the petroleum industry that makes plastic, but that probably would never happen. Personally, I think a lot of the recycling that individuals recycle, I think a lot of that plastic and recyclables ends up in shipping containers. Well, I kind of know it ends up in shipping containers going to other countries to be sorted and recycled, and half the time I wouldn't be surprised if those shipping containers either intentionally or accidentally do end up in the ocean because they just fall off the ships or the ship sink. And unless there was a actual like consistent ruling that says you cannot take trash overseas, then you're going to always kind of have that problem. And I think that would be probably great is if the entire world got together and said, we are just not going to ship trash overseas ever. We're going to consider that as close to a war crime as possible, but there still would be plenty of countries that would do it. But yeah. And that would really just lock trash into specific landlocked areas that you still would have to do something with.
Completing termination sequence.
And yeah, occasionally you hear about new technologies that potentially would replace plastic, but they don't happen. They don't ever feel like they come out fast enough to really make a difference in the time frame that we need differences to be made. Moving on, back to video games. I got on a bit of a rant there. Here we have a game called Lingering Legacy, which is like a low polygonal action RPG game from the looks of it. $9.99 English full audio. Well, these screenshots aren't really showing me a lot, but there might be something here. I would suspect no. I don't want to just immediately dismiss something because it's low polygonal, so I'm going to give this a chance.
Cheers and goodbye.
Here we have a game called Strange Nightmares, which looks like a dark screenshot RPG maker game. Early access, English allegedly full audio, $5.09. That's easily dismissed. Here we have The Doors of Tritheus, which looks like it's a RPG game. Tritheus is not a word I've ever heard before. Which is unique because so often you'll have games that have big words you may not have heard of, but they are actual words, like Tartarus. If it had been The Doors of Tartarus, I would know exactly what they're talking about.
What is not there?
Can we get a necromancy here? No.
I'm coming for you.
So
You see, I'm only getting stronger.
Detestable.
that one,
Detestable.
that one. We'll go ahead and attack with this one, and
Detestable.
then that one. And then that fills up his hand, destroying a card. The Doors of Tritheus is $12.99 English only, which is just too expensive for what it is, what it looks like. Here we have a game called Axial Disc 1, which I don't like the idea of games being labeled Disc 1. Yeah, this does not look like anything free. English only. Yeah, I think that's easily skipped. Here we have a game called Demon Strikes Back,
This'll be over quick.
which looks like it's a Chinese, they're saying roguelike action game. Yeah. Doesn't look like anything of interest. $7.19 English and Chinese. Here we have a game called Custom Machinery, which looks like it's a sandbox game of no interest. Early access $7.99. English, German, Spain, Spanish, Russian, and Turkish. That's an odd collection of languages. Let's see. Let's go and play this.
No, literally.
Here we have a game called Toy Tinker Simulator, which feels like you're fixing toys, but I don't think you really are. I mean, you could be fixing a couple toys, but it more feels like you'd be just going through a list of asset flips, cleaning them up, and then maybe running a little bit of a simulator around it. Coming soon. Says it's going to support a bunch of languages. I could almost see the idea of a Lego simulator where you're just playing with Lego. But I can't see the idea that you're like using a you're fixing controls for an RC car, which this is totally wrong anyways. This person has a soldering iron, I believe. It kind of looks like it's a hot air gun, but it's a soldering iron, I would assume, because of the spring. But he has the component not on the table or on a clamp, but on the sponge, which is the wet part, or should be the wet part, that you use to clean the solder flux off of. So they don't even know how to solder. Yeah, and I don't think there really is a game where you're just trying to fix old toys. I could almost see an argument for a game where there is a bunch of collectible old toys, but that you pick up and you just look at them in their 3D models, but that's about all I think you could do. You could very specifically have a game focused on Legos. You could have a very specific game focused on like Lincoln Logs or marbles or dominoes or RC cars even, but each one of those things is going to require very specific types of programming and focus to make a game good. Unlike Tabletop Simulator, where at the core, Tabletop Simulator is all about you have this thing and it is on a tabletop and it moves from point A to point B, and everything else has to be programmed and modded by either the creators of Tabletop Simulator or users of Tabletop Simulator.
I bring unto you serenity.
You must die.
Let's keep on playing. Video Games Chronicles says Call of Duty Warzone is teasing its next game by killing off winning players. Vanguard looks set for imminent reveal. Some players who finish first and make it to the extraction helicopter aren't quite managing to escape. The Vanguard teaser was verified. Well, that seems like that would be annoying, to say the least. And I think this is one of those cases where there probably won't be as much complaint about this, but I'm not sure if there really is any accuracy in any female snipers existing, depending on which military force exists. What I really would like to see is if any of these things, if there was a female sniper set in the time frame that Call of Duty Warzone takes place, it would be nice if that history was really talked about, and they said this character that we're highlighting is a fictionalization based on this person. But if that's not the case, then you probably should just go for more realism. See, it would be completely insulting if they came back and said, actually, this female character is a gender swap version of this famous sniper. If they could find a sniper whose identity was never identified, that would be it. Or otherwise, they should just say, we've created something from whole cloth fiction, and that's fine too.
What fine threads you have.
But the problem is, I think particularly with Call of Duty and these military first-person shooter games, is they have been built around the concept of being realistic and selling on realism. So, yeah. But a female sniper is still a step towards realism compared to a female infantry person with a artificial limb, or a female just standard soldier with an artificial limb. I don't know if infantry is the right word there. Moving on, Video Games Chronicle says Twisted Metal director would be very hurt if the revival rumor is true. David Jaffe says he doesn't believe a new game is in the works. I haven't heard a thing. I could see that. It's kind of funny to hear anybody in the video game industry actually just talk about emotions and the idea that it would be hurtful. Because I feel like a lot of video game companies are all about just being cold, emotionless jerks. Anyways, so that to straight up say, yeah, if there was a remake and nobody talked to me about it, that would be hurtful. That being said, we certainly have seen that in other forms of entertainment where major players and people who you would expect to be involved in sequels of movies and are just not asked to come back, not included at all. And there might be any number of secret reasons behind that as to why that might be the case, as far as potential conflicts happening in the background. From a consumer perspective, if they decided to make an American McGee Alice third game and didn't involve American McGee or his company at all, if EA decided to do that, I believe it's EA, I think I'd still be way more interested in playing the game than boycotting it just because they didn't involve the creator. Same is probably true for Twisted Metal if I had any interest in playing Twisted Metal in the first place. In a lot of ways, I think Twisted Metal was a half concept of a game, and it needs a bit of a rethink to have any kind of relevancy these days. Moving on, Video Game Chronicle has an article. Cyberpunk dropped out of the PS Store chart a month after taking #1. So it returned in late of June and then immediately disappeared. So yeah, and frankly, in late June there probably wasn't that much competition either.
Tell me what to do, please.
Alright, let's see. Do we want to evolve something else, or
Tell me what to do with my size
let's see.
and strength.
Hit this one and kill that. Hit that one
I suppose I've lost some of my edge.
and then heal that. Let's see. According to Video Game Chronicles, Avengers developer insists PlayStation's exclusive Spider-Man is still coming this year. So, so Marvel Avengers will get an exclusive Spider-Man character, I guess, for people playing Marvel Avengers. Not to be confused with the Spider-Man game on PlayStation. This is the Marvel Avengers.
It won't be long now.
The false will sink, and the true will rise.
Alright, well, let's hit this. Till 10 damage instead. Done this twice. Machina cards. Can I put a Machina card on the field? I can do this, I guess.
I suppose I've lost some of my edge.
And I don't think I can attack because this guy has ambush anyway, so we, I guess, leave it there. Video Games Chronicle has an article. The ROM site owner who decided to fight Nintendo in court ordered to destroy all content. I don't know if that's a fair way to describe being sued. Like, I'm not sure Nintendo gave them any chance or opportunity to settle at all. I'm not sure that if this is the same guy that couldn't even make $50 payments. I'm not sure he has the money for lawyers or anything. Regardless, Nintendo successfully obtained a permanent injunction. So theoretically, he's been ordered to destroy anything. What's interesting about this, yeah, this is ROM Universe, is the idea that it's taken up until this point where
It all ends
they have gotten the judge to tell the person that he has to destroy all the ROMs that I would assume he would have a backup for. And arguably, I'm not sure if there's a great way to prove that you can't, someone did destroy it or not. Because if you've got some secret backup somewhere and they never found it in Discovery, you could easily still have that backup. In a lot of ways, it doesn't matter. Nintendo ROMs are out there. You could always go download it again. But yeah, the DMCA laws as far as people stealing ROMs don't seem to be particularly in the realm of. Can I win here? I don't think I can. I can do this. And then maybe evolve next turn. And do this. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, they won 2.1 million in damages, but failed to get a permanent injunction. Originally, and now they have gotten a permanent injunction with a motion to reconsider because he failed to make his first $50 installment. Which arguably, like, you might as well just say, screw you, I'm not paying you anything. So now it has been granted. So he is now permanently banned according to judge order, which maybe that would mean if you don't follow the judge's order, you'd actually get thrown in court, in jail for criminal contempt at this point. But he's been banned from ever copying, distributing, selling, or even playing an unauthorized copy of a Nintendo copyrighted work. Which, at this point, I don't know if you would want to play a Nintendo work when somebody has sued you and you owe them $2.1 million. I don't think you'd ever want to think about Nintendo ever again anyways. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if this person is the ROM site owner is not all mentally there anyways, so he may very well just not care. Moving on, Video Games Chronicle has an article here. Battlefield 2042's Hazard Zone is reportedly inspired by Escape from Tarkov, which, okay, if that interests you. Call of Duty Vanguard reveal confirmed for Warzone on August 19th. See, I don't know what the deal is with this article. These pages is that they seem to need to reload a second time. So I'm gonna probably have to tweak my uBlock Origin setup. See if we can do this. It may very well be a case that the page changes the way it looks on a reload, which that would be definitely weird, but not unheard of. That would be very weird, however, to specifically have a web page look different on different reloads. Do we want to play this? I guess we do.
Oh, are you in need of medicine?
Here we have a game on Steam called Casual Golf, which looks like nothing. 79 cents English only. Here we have a game called Untangled, which immediately catches my attention a little bit more, but I'm not sure it isn't just an asset flip horror game. The visuals here on the trailer in particular are probably the thing that's going to save it. Yeah, it looks like there's more visual tricks going on here. This looks like this might actually be a decent Asian horror experience. Yeah, $4.49 English only. That's weird. That's English only. Alright, well, I'm going to put this on the follow list. The question is relevancy. These screenshots do not do it any favors, certainly. Like, the only screenshot that even slightly sells it is this person being crucified, and even then it's dark screenshot syndrome. Where a lot of these other ones, I can't even tell what's going on in the screenshot.
Do not seek what is not there.
Open wide.
So, yeah, that's probably a great example of making a bad collection of screenshots. Next, we have 1001 Jigsaw Detective, which just looks like it's a generic jigsaw puzzle game. I'm not even going to call it low effort at this point, just generic. That's a phrase I should probably use more. $2.99, English, French, German, Russian. Here we have a game called Ninja Stealth 4, which looks like a top-down stealth game of no interest. 59 cents, English only. Here we have one called Urinjo. Well, actually it's tagged not safe for work, so let's not just immediately show it. It's Orinji Ori no Komono. No, Kumo, not Kimono. Man, I'm not doing good reading Japanese today.
At least we got our mark.
I don't know what Kumo stands for. That's a Japanese award. It's a jigsaw puzzle game with anime girls.
Stop standing in peace.
It's tagged not safe for work. It's tagged as a visual novel, which I don't believe is the case. None of the screenshots are actually YouTube family unfriendly, so you can look at them, but yeah, there's kind of nothing here. $1.19, English full audio. Yeah, I don't know why you have a Japanese title when you're not even supporting the Japanese language, or an Asian title when you're not going to support that language.
Oh, are you in need of medicine?
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Dicey Tower, which
Designs are like
looks like it's a dice-based game. Has a little bit of polish to it, but I don't think there's enough around the idea of a dice-based game alone to make it work. Just feels like you'd be slowing down the gameplay mechanic really slow, making every fight last forever. $2.39, English and Russian, allegedly full audio in both. Here we have Road 96, which this is one of several hitchhiking games we have seen, and it is rated very positively. Yep. $19.99, English full audio. This is a narration based game, so if anything, these hitchhiking games might finally have hit a level of these are the Telltale game clones that we expected to see nearly a decade ago. That would be about the only thing I could imagine you're supposed to take from them.
Make it fashion. Prepare yourself.
since this game already has 69 positive reviews, I guess I just go ahead and put this on the watch list. And I believe this Digix Art developer was one that was just acquired by, I believe, Embracer Group.
Nice swordsmanship.
It might also be a case where Road 96 is like the breakout hit for Digix Art and Digix Art, and then we kind of quickly never hear anything else from them. How did I lose there? That is crazy. Let's see. Kimetsu has the Samurai Showdown DLC character Baiken from Guilty Gear announced. So this is a character from Guilty Gear showing up in Samurai Showdown. Interesting. And still have these age restrictions as an issue showing up. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 character Gogeta from Dragon Ball Super has been announced, which I'm sure Dragon Ball Xenoverse fans will like that. There's this game Synergia that came to the Epic Store, which is a visual novel, which is funny that the Epic Store would be promoting a visual novel. It's also kind of weird that this is a Epic Store exclusive, it seems. Yeah. I don't think that this has been on Steam. Yeah. Yeah, it would be definitely weird, certainly, if we started to see the Epic Store get a lot less curated in the content that it has to offer. Yeah, actually it is on Steam. It came out on July 27th of 2020, and it actually is on my wish list. And since this is a cyberpunk dystopian game, this might very well be a better argument to play this game than it would be to play Cyberpunk 2077. It's fairly cheap also, at $11.99. English, Chinese, Spain, Spanish. There's an odd combination of languages also. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a Chinese development. There's a slight lacking in the visual animation polish. I wouldn't also be surprised if it was a Spain-Spanish story development. Here we have a game on Steam called Beaver Island, Tarina's Adventure. I'm not sure though how many visual novels I'd want to play, so thinking about that one might be much closer to an exception than anything else. Let's see, do this. Anyways, Beaver's Island.
Some things are worth living for.
They're saying it's an economic adventure. Economy, education, RPG. Yeah, I don't think that there's a game here I really would want to play. I like the art here, but to tell me it's economics focused is kind of ridiculous. I was expecting more of a kid-friendly, just adventure game. Yeah. And arguably, I would, as somebody who doesn't really support capitalism, late-stage capitalism at the very least, I would argue it's downright just brainwashing at a certain level to to be teaching and praising the benefits of capitalism, which is, I assume, the economics that they're teaching to kids through like cartoony kid-like depictions. And certainly, if it wasn't teaching capitalism, if this game, Buy Fee Fur Island, if it was teaching communism or socialism, certainly parents in the United States would complain about that. So, I think it's only fair to what's good for the goose is good for the gander in that situation. Okay. I have full cards, which means I need to play this. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Tizal's Quest, which looks like it's just a low polygon hack and slash Diablo clone. Yeah. It's not pretty enough really to compete. $2.99 English only. Here we have a game called QB Planets, which seems to be almost like a combination platformer and Rubik's Cube. There might be something to that idea, certainly. It's almost like a Mario Galaxy concept with Rubik's Cubes added. $5.99 English only. Yeah. I'm willing to give this a follow and see if it gets any relevancy. It kind of looks like a mobile game, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's just not enough puzzles to justify it. Like, see if it can tell us how many levels there are. 100 plus puzzles, 290 medals. That doesn't seem like a ridiculous amount. The price at $6 may be a little high, but not insanely high. Alright. Do this.
Thy little canary.
Let's do this.
And lies.
Give this to this.
Everything was a lie.
Hit that.
See you around, Slick.
And yeah, I think that's all I can do. Here we have a game on Steam called Geoduck, which looks like it's just a low effort asset flip garbage game. Free, English only. I guess at least the price is right there. Ender Lily's Quietest of Nights version 1.1 update is now available for PC. It adds new modes, items, and more. This is from Gametsu. I don't remember what Ender Lily's Quietest of the Night is, though. See if there's a link to Steam so we can see it. It looks to me like it might be a Dark Souls inspired game. Yeah, it's on the following list. It's single player, whole bunch of languages, $24.99. Well, with a very positive recommendation, this clearly needs to go to the wish list. So we will move that over. Alright, well, let's hit this. And hit this.
This'll be over quick.
And then hit this.
All of you.
To die.
Attack there, I guess.
To die.
Let's see, Gamma Citrus says Alter Investment Fund has grabbed a majority stake in the Swedish publisher Raw Fury. It's a little too inside baseball for me to care. War of Mongols for PC has been delayed to October 19th, according to Gametsu. Which, that's definitely not a game that I've been keeping a lot of attention on.
Let us pierce
not paying any attention to. Looks like it's maybe something of interest, but it may also be much closer to an XCOM style game. Yep. There definitely was a game that reminded me a lot of the Nintendo 64 game Blast Corps, and I was like, yeah, the idea of racing and doing destructible environments might have a bit of an appeal. Because that's certainly something that we haven't seen a recent modern version or modern game attempt as far as destructible environments. Lego games are probably about the only thing that are close to a destructible environment type game. Here we have Escape This Big Maze, which just looks like a low effort asset flip maze game. 99 cents, English only. Here we have a game called The Thief Girl, which probably is a Chinese, almost looks like it's a box puzzle pushing game, but I think it's a stealth game. It's just no visual polish here. And once again, don't get tricked by the thumbnail and the anime character. $11.69, English, German, Chinese, and Japanese. Here we have a game called Captain Collision, which just looks like a asteroid avoidance shoot 'em up game. Free. I guess the price is right then. English only. Let's come over here.
Hostile unit confirmed.
Play
Tell
that.
me what to do, please.
Hit that. Hit that.
Let us pierce the twilight slightly.
Hit that.
Begin.
Hmm.
This is not a warning. Commencing termination protocol. Destroying target.
Here we have a game on Steam called The Last Village, which looks like it's aliens attacking. What's funny here is I normally would just describe this as an asset flip horror game, but in a funny way, I've never seen an asset of a UFO. There might actually be an idea here, certainly, of aliens attacking a village instead of zombies attacking a village, which we see more often in games. It's probably not worth my effort to put this on the follow list, but I'm going to give it an extra chance just because it's being slightly creative. Next, we have a game called Omnia, which seems to be probably a French-based... Well, it seems like it's a collection of mini-games and visual novel elements all over the place. $1.19, English, Portuguese, Brazil, Spain, Spanish. Is that not French that I saw? I guess it wasn't. Yeah, I don't know why I thought that was French, but whatever. I don't think there's anything here. 2D platform adventure game. To help the player identify their behavior, the game allows the player to embark on the world of subconscious by putting them in front of the decisions that need to be made based on their emotions. Draw 2 cards. 10 damage can do that.
We'll cut you down.
That didn't do as much. Discard, draw a card.
Pigs, where are you?
Evolve.
Sleep.
The design fault. I am such a genius. Such a good guinea pig.
Stay safe. What adorable, ephemeral lives.
Yeah, I just don't think there's enough here as far as Omnia that make me want to. There's kind of like no consistency in what it's offering enough as far as its advertisement for me to figure out what it is. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article here. Tandem: A Tale of Shadows launches October 21st, which is a Steam link, so we can check that out. This is some kind of puzzle platforming game. It may be good, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of bad. It's not out yet though, so I don't see a real reason to put it on the follow list. Here we have a game called Overheat, which looks like nothing, for $5.09. Say no to that also. Right, finally. Fuse away that one. And evolution point to draw 2 cards.
My beloved Nava. Accept harmony.
Okay.
Shutting down.
Let's see. Video Games Chronicle has an article here. The Halo TV series will show off a different side of Master Chief, says 343. You almost assume that that would be the case because I don't think there's been that many sides of Master Chief shown in the first place. So, according to Video Games Chronicle, hidden Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer assets may hint at plans for a battle royale. Although at this point, I think anything released in the last 6 months to a year probably has some elements or some idea already built into it where they might have a battle royale in it, considering how popular battle royales would have been during the development of those games. A horror first-person shooter called Cultic launches in 2022 for the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. This is going to be published by 3D Realms. This is a Gamatsu article. Let's see what it looks like. I think 3D Realms also was acquired by Embracer Group. And see, this is just one more example of a game designed to look like an old Quake game or Hexen clone. Which, yeah, I'm not sure that's the way you should make things look, but that's the way it seems to go. Okay. Has this fused twice? No. So.
Tell me what to do, please.
And
Oh, my beloved Nava.
do that. Evolve that.
Tell me what to do with like this.
Hit that. 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 And then that.
Shutting down.
Let's see. Here we have a game on Steam called Woody Choppy, which I assume is just a simplistic wood chopping game. We've seen mobile phone versions of these games better than even this. 89 cents English only, easily skipped. Here we have a game called A Clever Label, which looks to me like it's just kind of a VR documentary Like, it seems to be really almost a documentary that shouldn't be in VR in anyways, right? I have no idea, no clue whatsoever as to why this would be free to play and in VR. Seems like you just wasted your money when you could have made a standard documentary that would have aired on YouTube or TV and gotten a much bigger audience. It's like putting something out in VR is intentionally burying it at this point. We are still scrounging for 1 Shadowcraft victory and 4 Bloodcraft or Polarcraft victories. Next we have Glitchpunk on Steam, which we may have seen this game before. Yeah, I think we did. But you can see it's mixed early access, so I think at this point, if out of the gate it's mixed, I would have to assume Glitchpunk would have to come out of early access and get some kind of coverage somewhere to justify it getting a second look. Yeah, so we'll have to just skip it now. Here we have a game called Kitty Adventure, which just looks like a platforming game. And this is one of those cases, once again, where I always want to play something that's kind of like a Mario game, but then I usually look at games like this and think, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's really enough game there. 59 cents, English only. And it really is just like the same thing over and over again. I guess I'll be generous and put this on the fall list, since it is already mostly positive. But I imagine at a second look, I would almost certainly ignore it. Here we have a game called 12 Locks and Keys. I think we already talked about this, where it's just a side-scrolling, low-effort game. $5.99. Here we have Hidden Shapes Black Skull, which I think we also talked about, which is nothing. $1.29, bunch of languages. Here we have Cat's Princess Visual Otome novel. Yeah, I may just have a whole bunch of open tabs that either I remember looking at them and didn't talk about them, or I talked about them. This is a dungeon crawler. It's still not quite polished enough. $8.99, English only. Here we have Rotate. I swear we talked about all these. Just a rotation puzzle game, $1.99. Here we have Oko. Yeah, we definitely talked about that. $3.74. Did we talk about Reflected? Seems like it's a puzzle game where you have 2 characters where your actions are reflected, which I don't think that changes enough to make it interesting. Like, you have some nice visuals here, but they're kind of busy because the background kind of doesn't matter. It really feels like it's a one-screen game, really, with just different puzzles in the circle in the middle. 77 cents is an odd price, English only. Naraka Blade Point. Was this an MMO game? Yes, this was an online PvP game. So that's why it's not on my wish list. But it does look nice. Mostly positive, $19.99. Here we have a game that's all in Asian characters and looks like it's a cell phone gacha game. Free to play with in-app purchases. Here we have a game called Tales of the Mirror, which apparently is a word game. Looks like it's probably a Chinese game. Mixed reviewed, $6.39, English, Japanese, and Chinese. Here we have Area 54 visual novel action adventure, which looks like garbage. Although I don't hate this art style. It does just look terrible as a game. English, $3.99.
Open wide.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Lovecraft's Untold Stories 2 has been announced for PC, which I guess that means there probably was an Untold Stories 1. Lovecraft's Untold Stories. Yeah, it kind of feels like it's a different art style of a Diablo game. But I don't know if you can play the single player and if you just go on forever, or what. The idea of H.P. Lovecraft characters being the monsters you fight instead of demons in Diablo, I think translates fairly well. See, if we look here, Lovecraft's Untold Stories 1, visual polish is a little bit lacking compared to the sequel. Yeah, it feels a little rough. Even at that, though, it's rated very positively and is on my wish list. It's not discounted now, but in January it was at $2.99, which feels like a much more reasonable price for something that looks this way. And this might be a great example of switching things around and bringing out your sequel as quickly as possible so that you can throw in the new graphics and improve things. Yeah, you might make an argument to just jump to the sequel itself, because it does feel like a lot has been polished here. They're calling it an action RPG with roguelike elements, which I think that kind of describes probably describes the
Open wide.
Diablo series also. And I'm just stumbling over everything. The comic book style dark retro horror first person shooter Forgive Me Father has been announced for PC, which it's on Steam too. So there's kind of no reason to watch the trailers. This also feels Lovecraftian, but it has a very different perspective. It's kind of a shame they have like two Lovecraftian things announced at the exact same time. And what I would say here is, particularly when I see this depiction, this feels like a very unique art style, trying to make something like a Doom Hexen game, but bringing it into a modern twist. This does feel kind of Borderlands-esque, comic booky-esque, without feeling low pixel count or low polygon count. So yeah, I'll be interested to see when this comes out, but apparently it's only coming out to early access in October so far. Okay, this.
Uncharted desert awaits.
And
Open wide.
I guess you do that. Do I want to bury something? No. Let's see. A game called Power Slave Exhumed has been announced for PC. It combines the PlayStation and Saturn versions of the classic first-person shooter. Which again has a Steam page, so we could just look at it. This is from Night Dive Studio, so this is them releasing an old game. so it's more excusable. But yeah, if you were to make a new game with this level of graphics today, I would probably not give it a chance. There is a lot of games like this, but I don't know if any of them have any relevance at all now. Like, I'm sure people enjoyed them when they came out, certainly, but that doesn't inherently mean that people should play them.
Prepare yourself.
Hit that,
What do we have here?
On to the next
and hit
project.
that, I guess. Here we have a game on Steam called Hit Confirmed, which, yeah, doesn't look like anything that would interest me. 59 cents English only. Here we have a game called Non the First Warp, which, yeah. I don't see anything here that immediately catches my attention. It's a point-and-click adventure game, and usually I'm a sucker for point-and-click adventure games. $9.89, English, Spain, Spanish, Danish, and Italian. Just because I'm a sucker for point-and-click adventure games, I'm going to put this on the follow list, but realistically, I think it's not going to make it to the wish list. We are not getting anywhere quickly here. I'll probably be our last game today if we can rush through the news. Here we have a game called Wushu Chronicles 2 on Steam, which, yeah, looks like it's a Chinese only game. English not supported, $16.99. And frankly, if it doesn't support English, I can just immediately dismiss it without even considering anything else. Here we have Academy of Magic Dark Possession, which looks like it's just a match 3 game. $5.39, English only. Here we have a game called Savior of the Abyss, which looks like an RPG Maker game. We're not seeing too many of these. This is rated very positively. $6.29, English, Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. Is there a way I can bend over backwards and want to play this? Honestly, I don't think there is. I think even if this was something that was just super popular, I'd have to hear audiences clamoring about it before I'd be willing to play it. We know that there are several RPG Maker-esque games out there that did become fairly popular. Usually they're horror games. I know at least one of them actually got an anime made behind it, but I still think we pass on it. See, next we have a game on Steam called World's Legends, which looks pretty in the screenshots, but looks to me like it is just a first-person shooter player versus player game. $14.99. Well, it says it's single player actually, English only. So yeah, I just don't think there's a game, enough of a game there at that rate. Let's go ahead and use both repair mode. Next we have a game called Gelly Break Deluxe, which looks like a 3D platformer. This might work. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it's a very short game and not that good. Not worth like $19.99. Single player, split screen co-op, English, French, Italian, German, Spain, Spanish. Yeah. I need to follow it though, just to see if maybe it turns out to be a sleeper hit. Here we have a game called Connect the Dots, which is just a single screen puzzle game. Not a terrible thought for a puzzle game, but also a lot of these games really should just be mini game mechanics in bigger games. I guess if this was really cheap, $2.99 is not that cheap. 500 puzzles. I don't know if I really need 500 puzzles of this either. Yeah. Don't think there's quite enough polish there for that game. Here we have a game called Magic by Mail, which is just a text-based game, obviously. $2.99. We don't see too many text-based games, and I'm glad for it. It would get really annoying really fast. Here we have Faraday Protocol, which I think we had already talked about this as kind of a puzzle myth-like game. Maybe even a little bit closer to a Portal game. Let's see, it's $17.99, English full audio, several other languages. That deserves a follow. Alright, now we'll take that. Let's see, here we have Marble Pop Paradise, which looks like it's a VR Bubble Bobble clone. Doesn't look terrible, but doesn't look excellent either. And I think there is an official 3D Bubble Bobble game. This is free though, so if you've spent the massive amount of money to have a VR headset, getting a free game would be very, very useful. So check it out if you're interested.
Verifying access.
Hit that. And then hit that.
Thy little canary.
And then hit that. And that. Don't want to attack? No, I guess not. Interesting. This VR game seems to also allow you to play YouTube in VR at the same time. Which at a certain point, shouldn't all VR games potentially allow you to do just picture on picture? Like, shouldn't all programs let you have picture on picture? Let's see. Next we have a game called Fire Tonight. They're saying it's a narrative puzzle game. Yeah, I think it is. Probably close to a point-and-click adventure game more than a visual novel. I think I vaguely recall when this was announced. $4.79, English full audio. We'll put that on the follow list. It's already being rated positively. Alright, well. Go ahead and do this. Going to do this. And I don't think there's anything else I can do. Here we have a game called Vizzle, which looks like it's a block sliding puzzle game. Yeah. Maybe not even that. It's some kind of puzzle game of no interest. $3.99, English only. Wow, we must just have a ton of tabs. Here we have Cat Interstellar Recast, which I swear this game came out a long time ago. August 12th it says. Maybe it just came out of early access now? Nope, it's still in early access, 59 cents. I'm fairly certain I've seen a game that looks incredibly similar to this, and even if I haven't, this doesn't look particularly good. So, yeah. Do this. And then do this. And then we'll do this. And this. And then we'll put that on the field.
This'll be over quick.
And then in the turn.
Completing termination. Animation sequence.
Here we have Blair Witch VR Edition,
Hostile unit
which
confirmed.
I assume is inspired by Blair Witch. So I basically have to put this on the fall list. It's $25.49, which seems pretty expensive considering Blair Witch isn't that popular at the moment. English full audio with a bunch of other languages. Yeah, I'll put this on the fall list. It's from Bluebird Team, which, yeah, Bluebird Team made Observer last time. Yeah, it would make a lot more sense just to play Blair Witch, though, which is mostly positive, instead of playing the VR version. And you would almost expect that you would get the non-VR version for free. Okay, let's hit this.
Tell me what to do, please.
Back that down. That way.
Damage heavy.
Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Komatsu has an article here. Street Fighter V Champion Edition DLC character Akira Kazama gameplay trailer is now available. Which, yeah, looks like Street Fighter V is getting another character. Which, it's not super surprising, frankly, that you would get new characters. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot of costumes for a Street Fighter game. I wasn't really expecting that. Let's just do this.
All of you.
Go ahead and fuse that once. Which means I can't really use.
Like this? Like this?
Hit that, I guess. That's probably the best way to pull that off. Yeah. Street Fighter V doesn't look quite what I would expect from a Street Fighter game. They have kind of gone in a soft cell CG look, whereas if you think about Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 1, if you can even remember Street Fighter 1, that was more of a harsher, flat 2D fighting animation style, or character animation style. So, yeah, they probably should try and go back to that art style and stick with 2D instead of moving to 3D. But whatever, I don't know. I'm not an expert in fighting games. Yumetsu says Espagaludia 2? I have no how you'd pronounce that. Launches September 9th for the Switch. No trailer. I assume this is some kind of... Well, actually, it's a shoot 'em up. I thought it was going to be a JRPG. Let's see, we already talked about the Guilty Gear Strive DLC character, Jacko. Which there was a, I believe, lawyer or celebrity named Jackie-O, but I assume that this is probably more of a reference to Jack-O-Lantern than that. Okay, well, let's see if this works. Okay. Here. hit that one first. Evolve this one. Hit that one.
Ambition and avarice. A brace of vices.
Battle mode activated. Heavy impact sustained.
Let's go ahead and fuse this card. Anyways.
I am reborn. Know my fury.
Let's see, here we have a game on Steam called Memories with My Kitten, which looks like it's just a puzzle game. Doesn't look terrible. $1.39 English, Portuguese, Brazil. It seems like it is custom art for a puzzle game, but it's still just a puzzle game, so I have to skip it. Here we have a game called Seeker My Shadow, which looks like a family-friendly, says VR adventure game. Let's see, $16.99. Guess I'll put it on the follow list.
I am reborn. Know my fury. I am reactivated.
Okay. What can I do that would save the day? I need to be able to kill something. I also need to be able to evolve. So do 2 damage, which is basically nothing. So my hope would be to play this and then evolve here.
Limiters removed. Battle mode
Hit
activated.
that.
Sisters, I
Battle mode
Hit
activated.
that.
Ambition and avarice. A brace
Go ahead
of vices.
and hit this. Can't evolve anything more.
activated.
Obey me.
We can hit that.
Know my fury. I am reborn. I am reactivated.
Here we have a game on Steam called Replicator, which looks like it's a top-down twin-stick shooter with roguelike elements, but there might be enough polish here in a comparison to something like Smash TV, and I am just losing non-stop. I think I want to just, in an effort to end early, I think I just want to kind of call it a day and not even try and get that third victory, because but I won't do that. I'll just kind of ignore it. See if I can get somebody to quick disconnect. So yeah, I'm gonna put Replicator on the follow list. It's early access, English and Russian. There might be some success with that game. Here we have a game called Tetragon, which is a more visually polished puzzle platformer. It does seem like it might be one of these games where you rotate the world,
Come
but
on.
it doesn't seem generic like all the other instances we've seen of that. Let's see, $11.99, several languages. I'll put it on the follow list. Yeah, you do rotate the world. I would be willing to play one game like that. I don't want to play a whole bunch of games like that. Here we have a game called Metro Simulator, which looks like a Metro Simulator. $24.99, whole bunch of languages, allegedly full audio in all the languages. Skip that. Here we have a Gospel of Abaddon, which looks like nothing of interest. Looks poorly animated. $2.69 English full audio, bunch of other languages. Here we have White Hell, which Looks like a generic like first-person shooter, Duke Nukem type clone. There is definitely a dangerous point of calling your game White Hell and then setting it in the frozen tundra of Finland, which is where it's set, because people could misconstrue that title. Maybe that's intentional. Maybe it isn't. English full audio, $14.99. Definitely don't see anything of interest there though. Here we have Time Night Adventures, which doesn't look polished enough. $8.49 is too expensive also. Here we have Xena's Arc, which is a 4X strategy game for $29.99. We left too many things open on Friday, clearly. Either that or just a ton of games came out over the weekend, which I find that hard to believe. Here we have Boom XR, which looks like it's some kind of VR rhythm game around ninjas attacking you, which that's not the worst idea. So you hit the targets, and then when you hit the targets it shows up as a blue or pink ninja, sometimes green ninjas. That seems a little violent though, when you already had like Beat Saber and other things that kind of help reduce the violence in rhythm games, which you don't need violence in rhythm games. This is $4.99, which is a little too cheap for a VR game. Seems like this is one that will work on your own MP3s. Although at this point they should work on your own FLAC files too, not just MP3s. With iTunes embracing the free lossless audio codec, I assume a lot of people will start to embrace that if they have music files in the first place, which most people, I imagine, have long since just given up owning music files and moved on to Spotify and services that just stream.
You look kinda haunted. No, literally. You've been chosen.
I said I wasn't going to play it, but I started playing it. Here we have a game called Forsaken, which looks like a low-effort horror VR game. $5.99, English only. Again, too cheap for VR. Here we have Zando Extreme and Over the Top, which is some kind of board game, it says. Seems like it's a tic-tac-toe on top of tic-tac-toe, super tic-tac-toe. Which doesn't really change tic-tac-toe much, it's just you play 9 games instead of 1. And if anything, they are spending too much animation budget for a game based on tic-tac-toe. Early access for no reason, $1.99. Apparently online PvP with third-party EULA, English only. Let's see.
Why did I want gold again?
Yeah, I'm gonna skip Zando. Next game is tagged with sexual content and nudity, called Anime Zodiac, which I don't know if there's really a game here. It seems like it's just slide puzzles. If we look at it, here you have a sheep anime girl, a fish anime girl, I guess that's Libra. This is probably Leo the lion. So yeah, seems like you talk to them on occasion, and then there's the bull or cow. There's the Gemini characters. So they've taken some probably pre-made anime characters and tried to make a Zodiac around it. But it does seem that it is just pixel block puzzles. So, once again, it doesn't seem like there's anything actually going on there.
Uncharted desert awaits.
Alright, well,
No, literally. Aren't you popular?
What do we have here?
Shutting down.
yeah, so I couldn't imagine putting Anime Zodiac in the wish list. It's English, Chinese, Russian, French, and Italian. Although English, Chinese, and Russian are the only ones that are actually subtitled. I don't even think that there is particularly a anime out there of any sort, whether it's an adult one or not, that
Double check.
has a specific character representing each of the Zodiacs, with the exception of Fruit Baskets, and in that case, Fruit Baskets has male characters representing each character in the Zodiac, not female characters.
I'm coming. Detestable.
And it would be a little bit weird to gender flip all the characters in Fruit Baskets, for as popular as that anime was when it came out a long time ago. It even got remade and re-released.
Forces of darkness, bow before my tempest.
But I bet there is a parody out there. It just probably never gained any popularity. Moving on, we have a game called Hamsterverse, which it doesn't look like anything of interest. It just looks like an acid flip game. $14.99, English only. Here we have one that's all Asian characters that looks just like a Chinese mobile game. Free to play, in-app purchases, MMORPG, or MMO, doesn't say RPG. Here we have a game called Mr. Knight, which, yeah, seems like it's too much of a mobile game, too simplistic, too many currencies, too much going on the screen. $3.99, bunch of languages. Alright.
Does this outfit make me look too old?
Okay.
Prepare yourself.
Let's see, here we have another game that's all in Asian characters, which looks like another mobile game. $7.99, Chinese only. Here we have a game called Candy Gun, which is just a simplistic Zuma clone. $5.99, English and Russian.
I'm coming.
Here we have a game called Sugonoi, which, yeah, this looks like this might be an interesting horror game. I thought we had already put this on the fall list. We had. Interesting. Here we have Pirates of the Asteroid Belt, which, I can't immediately dismiss this. $11.04, English and Russian. This is probably bad. I would kind of assume that, but there might be something there. Here we have a game called Kerr, which just looks like another first-person shooter game. Early access, $15.99. Here we have a game called Rage Quit, which is a third-person trap runner game, according to the description. Early access, $2.79. That's a little too cheap for what you're showing me, so it's probably a short asset flip game if I was to guess. Here we have Larry the Unlucky Part 2, which the animation there looks too rough. It's free, so check it out, I guess, if you're interested. Ridiculous to have games be free and then have a third-party end-user license agreement. Here we have a game called Jelly 2, and just now I can see the beginning of the end. This is $4.79. It's just a match 3 game. here we have a game called Malfunction 2, which, yeah, looks like nothing of interest. $3.99. I will check to see if there was a Malfunction 1 and see if anybody enjoyed it. Nope, it came out in 2017, got 4 user reviews, so completely irrelevant. Here we have Paw Patrol, the movie, The Adventure City Calls. Let's reload this page and see if it's got any new reviews. I may at some point have to just start playing Paw Patrol games in an effort to balance out the fact that there are just no more Lego games that I can play, either because I don't own them. I do own like Lego DC Supervillains. I don't know if I have all the DLC, but yeah, I thought I hadn't purchased that game, so I might get around to playing that fairly quickly, relatively quickly in the next year or two. Paw Patrol, the movie, Adventure City Calls. This is a game, right? Yeah, it says it requires a controller to play. It's $40. It's a bunch of languages. It says it's full audio and everything except for Japanese, which is interesting. I bet that's not really true. Yeah, let's put this on the fall list and see if we can get a review. This is from the same developer slash publisher, I guess, of Spirit Lucky's Big Adventure, so they are trying to put out kids games or kid-friendly games. That being said, like, a lot of them don't seem to have gotten a large reviewing or following. Yeah. I don't know if Paw Patrol's even that particularly popular, though. Here we have a game called Upgun, which just sounds like a joke. Yeah, there's nothing here of interest. $10.79. I don't think I ate anything before I started streaming today, too, so I'm starting to get really hungry. Here we have a Chinese game that seems to be a simulation of running car shows and showing off cars, which is a very specific niche, Chinese only, but that is something that happens in China a lot, particularly since they use the car shows as an excuse to have scantily clad or nearly nude strippers, female presenters show up, so that they definitely at least used to have some very heavy sex sell events that that very possibly had nothing to do with actually selling cars. Here we have a game called Wave Tiles, which looks like nothing. Seems like it's just kind of a platforming thing. $21.24. It might be more of a case where it's something close to like Catherine even, but I don't know if there's enough room to play anything other than Catherine for that style of gameplay. This is English only. We need to go through the news. Sony PlayStation is hiring a live ops analytics director in San Mateo, California, according to Gamatsu. The Seattle-based Storefront has raised $5 million to scale up ahead of its game reveal. The VR developer XR Games has netted $2.1 million to expand its team and create new franchises. Gamasutra has an article embodying comfort and coziness in Here Comes Nico, a 3D platformer for tired people. This is basically just an advertisement / interview. Gamasutra barely talks about actual games and only really talks about industry stuff. Yeah, I think we'd already kind of looked at this game and talked about this game. Yeah. And then, let's see, Gamatsu says, Blood Rain Betrayal Fresh Bites launches September 9th, which this is a remastered version, I believe, of Blood Rain Betrayal, which I think I already have. So, it puts me in a weird position where I may not want to play the old version of a game just to play the remastered version of a game, because I haven't gotten around to play either one of them. The Blood Rain Betrayal game is a spin-off of Blood Rain, which was a 3D first-person shooter game, and arguably this more Castlevania-esque platform experience is a better way to have Blood Rain as a series go. Unless Fresh Bites is actually a new game. I don't think it is. The original developer WayForward upgrades its 2011 classic with new voice acting and Laura Bailey and Troy Baker, sharpened visuals, rebalanced gameplay. So you potentially could play both games because of the rebalanced gameplay concept. But yeah. It's a 2D hack and slash adventure game being compared to Mirror of Fate, which is a game I already played. Yep. The main character from Blood Rain is another example of a character that's just was not developed enough and didn't catch on. Here we have a Toho Doll Draft, which we had already talked about that. I don't know why there's so many duplicates. Here we have a game called Get Stuffed, which is a online party game, so I couldn't cover it. Free to play, online PvP, English only. This might interest somebody. The price was right, certainly at free. Here we have something tags sexual content, so we'll come over here. It's Hero of Demon JRPG. Looks like it's just a standard RPG Maker game, dungeon crawler element. This is about the 4th or 5th game we've seen that's been tagged with sexual content, so I guess that resets the timer as far as adult content being allowed on Steam. Here we have a game called Bloodspear, which looks like it's a Dark Souls type clone. It's rated very positively. It's free, so I don't know if this is supposed to be a student project or what. Because I don't know how I could cover a free game that obviously is really short. Because they're not going to give you something completely free like this. I guess I have to say, just check it out for yourself. It's not being labeled as a student project, so the game's free. Check it out. Here we have a game called Unscared, which is tagged as a hidden object 3D game. To me, I'd say it's probably a horror game, probably an asset flip game too. $6.99 English only. Yeah, I'll give this a follow just to give it a chance, but I doubt it would make it to the wish list. Here we have a game called Monkey Tantrum, which looks like nothing of interest. $5.99 English only. Here we have a game called Mini Jumper, which is an easy pass. $5.99 English only. I wonder if that's from the same publisher. Here we have a game called Unknown Woods, which I kind of like some of the monster designs, so I think I'll give it a follow for this reason here, but it'll probably never come out of early access anyways. $8.99 English only, and even if it did come out of early access, it probably wouldn't make it to the wish list. Here we have one called Microgravity, which I can immediately dismiss. $2.99 platformer, English only. Here we have a game called Demon's Residence, which is already mixed in reviews, so we can skip that. Looks like it's more of an escape the room game. $3.19 English, allegedly full audio. Here we have Jelly. Didn't we already talk about Jelly? Here we have a game called Titankin Prologue, which obviously would be a demo anyway, so that can be skipped. $9.99 English only. Well, interesting. This is probably the first Prologue game that I've seen that's actually not been a free demo in at least a year and a half. Everything that's had the word Prologue in the past has been used to describe a demo, a free demo. Here we have a game called Walking Through Walls, which obviously is a low effort escape the room game. $4.99, way too expensive. Here we have a game called By Night Origins, which doesn't look visually polished enough. $11.99, single and online PvP. English only. Here we have a game called Dinosaurs Prehistoric Survivors, which this is the full release, but it's mixed, unfortunately. $12.99 English, allegedly full audio. Which I assume that doesn't mean voice acting in this case. This is a shame because I would have liked for this to have been better received. A nice looking dinosaur game would be cool. Here we have a game called Space to Grow, which looks to be like a child raising simulator visual novel. But if I was going to do this, I don't know why I would do it with low effort animation or poor animation here. I don't know why you wouldn't just play Princess Maker. What's funny is the father never ages, so one assumes that this pink-haired girl is the same pink-haired girl here. He hasn't aged at all. She's grown quite a bit, which is the same pink-haired girl here, I assume, because the wife is blonde. Yeah. And I assume the wife dies fairly quickly because she doesn't seem to show up in any of the other screenshots. $8.49. No, I think that you can find better versions of that idea. And more versions of that are actually video games. At a certain point, raising a child is just like doing a job. And I don't see a reason for a game to simulate doing a job. I don't see a reason for a job to simulate raising a child. There are times like the first Walking Dead Telltale game where you're taking care of a child and it feels natural and impactful. I think even The Last of Us 1, that felt natural and impactful, but that wasn't the whole concept of The Walking Dead or The Last of Us by any means. Here we have a game called Orb Tour, which I'm going to immediately ignore. Next we have Furry Shakespeare Dreaming One Lazy Dead Midsummer. This is the same developer making these weird anthropomorphic characters and then making visual novels based on Shakespeare stories. On one hand, I almost applaud their effort in taking old Shakespeare stories and turning them into video games where people might actually see them instead of having to watch a play or read a book, or read a screen script, I guess is what you do, or an adaptation of a play. But on the other hand, then having it focused around furries seems ridiculous. It seems like you're targeting a very small audience. It's like it almost comes off like this game developer thinks that furries in particular, needs specifically to know more Shakespeare. And I don't get a reason why that would be the case. This is $9.99 English only. Here we have a game called Infinity Tempest, which doesn't look like it has enough variety as far as the screenshots to interest me. 59 cents English full audio. Here we have Walt Traces of the Lost Colony, which looks like a pixely kind of point and click game. It kind of feels like it's inspired by Monkey Island, so I'm willing to give it a chance. It's also rated very positively. This is a free prologue, English only. So I guess what I would want to do is click on this and then put this on the follow list prematurely since it's not out yet. Here we have another game called Our Personal Space, which looks like it is the exact same game that we just saw before. Free, English only. Here we have a game called Another Dungeon, which is tagged as a tower defense game. And the visual polish looks fine, but I don't want to play a tower defense game. Here we have a game called Fantasini, which looks like a horror game, maybe a horror asset game. Yeah, I think this is probably a horror asset flip game. I don't think there's enough here to sell it. See, a lot of these hallways look very similar. $4.49 English and Russian. I'm going to say no to that. Here we have a game called Jogward. That's $4.49 English only. That doesn't look like anything of interest. Here we have Chimera's What Wishes May Come Collector's Edition from Big Fish Games. Another hidden object game. Still seeing a consistent release of those for $12.59. We have about 5 more tabs. Here we have a game called Baron Magic, which looks unpolished visually. $5.99 English, Portuguese, Brazil. Here we have Stacky Desktop Edition, which looks like nothing of interest, for $3.99 English only. Here we have Indofire Tower Defense, which looks like nothing, for $5.99 English only. Here we have Cyberflight. I swear I've seen this game listed 3 different times on 3 different dates. Seems like this developer is straight up just trying to cheat the system, which clearly Valve should have some way of stopping that from happening. Either that, or there have been 3 or 4 different Cyberflight games. This actually almost feels like a racing game that might be interesting if it were actually a racing game. I don't see any real competition though as I'm watching this trailer. It seems like you're just kind of flying and avoiding buildings. And really this once again highlights why we should never have flying cars. That unless they're fully automated, the idea of flying in and out and around the buildings is just like every single near scrape of a wall could be a 9/11 in the development in making. This is $2.99. Here we have a game called Puzzle Light Slide, which doesn't look like anything of interest. It's 69 cents English only. Then we have Dark Threads, which is tagged as a puzzle VR game. Does it require VR? Yes, it does. $5.19 English only. I'll give it a follow, but that's too cheap. We might be hitting a point where VR games are starting to get fairly cheap. And then here we have a game called Apostle 3D, which is another one of these first-person shooter games. that Doom clones that don't look particularly interesting. It is $9.99, English only, allegedly full audio. So with that, that can bring me back to my main Twitter page. We're not obviously going to get everything done. So, yeah, we'll let me go through my main Twitter feed and check to see if there's been any new news worth mentioning in the past 3 hours. See, probably not a lot of news. It is an interesting question on the ROM universe case, whether a judge actually has the ability to limit whether somebody legally purchased a Nintendo game and played them. At a certain point, having your rights stripped, an individual having the rights stripped for doing a legal activity that is not really threatening to society, probably is taking it a little far. It is different to say a dangerous felon who has used a gun to kill someone can be released from serving their sentence and still be injuncted away from ever owning a gun again. It is weird to at a certain point just outlaw someone completely and say they can't play a video game. Yeah, so I would argue if the ROM Universe website owner had any lawyers, they probably should challenge that injunction, because that is extreme. And frankly, I think other people should challenge that. Like, I get the idea of destroying stolen goods, totally. That's something a judge could certainly do. But never playing a game, Nintendo game, seems kind of crazy. On the other hand, this might be a case where the person is crazy, so the judge feels that even if they did start to play Nintendo games, that would put them back down the path of probably committing the same uploading of copyrighted material again. So, but I guess you can't stop people at a certain level. You can't try and stop people from doing things on the chance that they might commit a crime in the future. That would be asking a little too much. Yeah, not a lot of news came out. We have a game here called Gemstone Defense, which obviously is nothing of interest. And then we have a game called New Meaning, which just looks like another visual novel that's not particularly that polished. It's free, so check it out if you're interested. And then Lamentum is now available for Xbox pre-order. I don't recognize this game. It's pre-order and it's $15. Interesting. Alright, but that's all the news we have today. So yeah. While it would have been nice to get a victory to get this, or 2 victories to get this, I probably will try and re-roll this if I pay any attention. And now I'm just going to try and get back to playing Binding of Isaac. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for